I'm Daryl Owens. Welcome to A World of Difference. You've watched him on ABC's 4-time Emmy Award-winning TV series Shark Tank. The Obama administration appointed him a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship. He's the founder and CEO of FUBU, the hip-hop culture-inspired global fashion brand which to date has racked up $6 billion in retail sales. And he's a New York Times best-selling author who has written 5 hit books. It seems that Daymond John has borrowed a page from his own book. He transformed scholastic troubles because of dyslexia into the creativity that's helped him to swim with the sharks. Daymond John is A World of Difference's latest difference maker. He joins us via Zoom, but first, let's take a quick look at Daymond in action.
I've been an entrepreneur since the day I was born.
Without further ado, here he is, the People's Shark, Daymond John.
Daymond John, the founder and CEO of For Us By Us, FUBU, and a panelist on Shark Tank, and the author of 3 best-selling books.
An entrepreneur is somebody who thinks outside the box, and when everybody else says no, they say yes.
In 1992, Daymond John was 23 years old with only 40 bucks to his name when he started FUBU, now one of the most iconic fashion brands in history.
When I started FUBU, I had to physically get up in people's face and try to sell them a shirt. Everybody thinks you need money to make money, but you don't. We knew we make it if we ever get on our senior. Came from the hood. I can't design. I'm dyslexic. Got left back in 7th grade. All that didn't stop me.
America's not about what can be done for us. It's about what can be done by us.
When you start hearing the president talk about FUBU, Mom, I made it.
I started going on shows, and Mark Burnett saw me and said, this guy knows how to break down a pitch. I want him on the show.
Every week, over 6 million people tune in to see Daymond John and his fellow sharks fight it out on Shark Tank.
4 fluffy pancakes, under 250 calories.
I'll do 120,000 for 50%.
I'll go 42. You can do it right now.
Say yes,
right
don't
now.
hesitate.
I'll do 42.
Nice play, Daymond.
Thank you very much.
It's about educating people. I'm just doing it because I was this close to losing everything myself.
Daymond, you have a deal.
Smart man.
There you go.
He's so encouraging, and he sees that I could do this.
So the question is going to be, when is it time for Chloe to start her line? The biggest investment is to invest in people.
We have an idea. We know you are the man to come to.
For me, I've always dreamed big, and so I called up my business partner, Daymond John from Shark Tank.
I love him so much.
I love him.
It's all about bringing other people up the ladder the same way that I was brought up the ladder.
I will guarantee to mentor you, but I will not give you the money at this time.
We're taught everything else as kids, but we're not taught how to use that tool called money.
You have to concentrate on this and be the king of this.
Daymond John from Shark Tank is here with us.
Daymond John, branding powerhouse and realist.
He's my favorite shark, the author of a brand new book called Rise and Grind.
You gotta grind. That's right. You gotta
Anything
go at it.
worth doing is worth overdoing.
Rise and grind, outperform, outwork, and out-hustle your way to a more successful and rewarding life.
Don't do things just for money. You have to start today and do what you love.
You're going to fail, but you're going to learn from that, and you're going to grow.
We've got a shark here named Daymond John.
You are also a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship.
We're here tonight to save the world and teach financial intelligence.
The recipient of the Daymond John Scholarship for Excellence is... I look for desire, drive, honor, and the ability to solve problems.
First of all, thanks for what you're doing.
My quest right now is to change people's lives, have fun at the same time, and challenge people.
You've just given back to the community in so many great ways. A real visionary.
Please welcome Daymond John!
The king of branding. He is the leader, the guy that started it all, a pioneer. I love it.
The American dream stole up. That's what it's about.
It's about leaving with a legacy.
Thank you.
Welcome to A World of Difference, Daymond John.
Thanks for having me.
So dyslexia usually is detected or diagnosed around age 5 or 6 when kids begin learning to read. Your diagnosis came in your adult years. Did your parents or teachers suspect you had a learning difference?
You know, it was never brought to my attention. It was actually my father was pretty upset that I wasn't able to often spell the same words we would go over. The word because. Sometimes my birth given first name is Garfield. I wouldn't be able to spell my first name often, and he used to be always upset at me. But I didn't even hear of this word dyslexia until probably I was 16 or 17.
Children are experts at detecting weaknesses in their peers. Were you teased and tagged with cruel nicknames because of your dyslexia?
No, not as much, I think, because I excelled pretty well in certain things like math and science. But, you know, for sure, you know, I suffered the same things that many kids probably did. I didn't want to raise my hand and go, huh, in school, you know, if I didn't really understand what something was. And I actually really hung out with a nice group of kids, cool kids. So they teased me about other things, but it wasn't the learning challenges that I was having.
Research finds that dyslexia is far more common among entrepreneurs than the general public. More than 35% of U.S. entrepreneurs are believed to have dyslexia. Did you launch any pre-FUBU juvenile lemonade stands or any other entrepreneurial opportunities growing up?
Oh, I started selling pencils when I was 6 years old. I was, you know, I had my own shoveling snow business at around 9 or 10. I had a bike business where I'd find bike parts and put it together. It took me and find the bike parts in the garbage or the dumpster. It would take me about 2 months to get a full bike together. So yeah, I always had businesses, always. And you know, often, believe it or not, on Shark Tank, I believe 8 of the 12 sharks are dyslexic.
That's true. It's amazing the success you all have achieved. So after high school in the early 1990s, you waited tables at Red Lobster, and your mother Margot gave you some sage advice. Figure out your life trajectory. You responded by asking her to teach you to use a sewing machine so you could produce lower price versions of some popular tie top caps, and you promptly sold 80 for $10 a pop, which showed you that you were on to something. You made more, and your mom scared up $100 grand in investment capital by mortgaging the family home. So, in a very tangible way, is it fair to say that your mom was not only your biggest booster, but also the godmother of FUBU?
Mom is my number one angel investor. I know I wouldn't physically be here without her. But yeah, it was always the lessons that she was teaching me. It was believing in me as well, you know, because as a child who, you know, had a learning challenge or learned or absorbed information just a little different than others, she always made me feel that as long as I put the best effort towards what I was doing, that I was loved, I was valued, and that she would help me figure it out as long as I was putting in the effort. So from a confidence standpoint, even before it came to financial, you know, help or giving me an education to sew, the confidence was the first thing. It was the basis to where I am today. It is the basis to where I am today.
I'm old enough to remember when the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight record first blared over the radio in 1979 and helped light the national hip-hop fuse. But in Queens, the hip-hop gumbo long had been stewing, and you loved the flavor. Would the Shark we know today have existed without the birth of hip-hop music and culture?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so because, you know, I didn't have access to the internet, social media, and we didn't see on the 6 o'clock news what was going on in, you know, the streets of DC or Compton. So we never had people to really look up to that we were aware of, right? Because they weren't showing people of color as entrepreneurs on the 3 or 4 channels out there. And the people of color who were entrepreneurs or the heroes, not even entrepreneurs, just the heroes in our community, we didn't see them because they were getting up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and taking their kids to school and then going to their place of business or working someplace and working till 8, 9 o'clock at night, coming home, doing their homework. And on the weekends, they were trying to find other ways to improve their lives and educate themselves. The access to people that we had in the neighborhood were generally, unfortunately, the people who had nothing to do during the middle of the day, and the things that they were doing were not the right things that they were doing, I believe, for the community. or maybe we would be able to watch TV and see an athlete. But I didn't have access to that. But then all of a sudden, because I live in Hollis, Queens, I started to see Run DMC and LL Cool J and Salt and Pepper and all these guys and women drive by in beautiful cars and going on trips, and they were doing something they loved that they didn't have to look over their back. And they were also getting other people excited and inspiring other people. And I wanted to do the same thing. And I realized that there was a way to empower myself, do something I love, and hopefully empower an entire culture and a community that I loved and held so dearly.
Now, you mentioned LL Cool J, and after you got FUBU up and running, you invited him to start wearing your clothes and promoting them. And there's a story I've heard about him wearing some FUBU gear during an ad for Gap. How did you pull off that bold move?
You know, I wish that I can say that I pulled it off. It was that LL is he's a kid from the hood. He's a kid who believed in hip hop culture. He understood that hip hop culture has a great influence, and he also realized that sometimes other people were trying to take advantage of the culture and make a profit of the culture that had no love for the culture. And he felt that when the Gap called him, that they didn't really have a true respect for him as a person or the culture. And he knew that he was somebody who was representing his neighborhood when he wore a FUBU hat in the Gap ad and said in the Gap ad, "For us, by us," on the low. And it was purely because of him. I had nothing to do with it. I remember watching the TV for about a month going, when are they going to pull this ad down? And they just didn't pull it down. You know why? Because they didn't have anybody who loved hip hop in the company. They didn't have any people of color in the company. They didn't have anybody to tell them that they were making a big mistake. And that goes into a whole bigger topic that we can obviously get to another time about how diversity is not only the right thing to do, but it's the most profitable thing to do. It creates innovation.
Absolutely. So you founded FUBU in 1992, and by 1999 you were partying with Stevie Wonder and earning an Essence Award for FUBU. The company was in over 5,000 stores, and the product was raking in more than $350 million in sales in 1998. Yet by 2003, FUBU had vacated the U.S. market. Can you shed some light on what happened?
Well, the lifespan of most clothing companies, and 90% of them are anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And FUBU really started in '89. I closed it down 3 times from '89 to '92 because I ran out of capital. We started getting public recognition around '96. So from '96 to 2003, we had a very, very good run. And we realized at that time we needed to probably slow down the run because a kid at that time either had 4 or 5 years worth of FUBU in their closet and they were moving from high school to college. They wanted to do something a little different or feel, try something new, which is no problem. And other brands were coming into the market. And so because we moved FUBU out in that way, we still had suits and various other things. What we did was we acquired different companies, and we acquired a brand that Biggie Smalls made very famous called Coogee. So we were still in the stores. It was just not FUBU anymore. It was Coogee.
All right. So that was an interesting reinvention, which brings me to this. You've called Shark Tank, which premiered on August 9, 2009, one of your life's big breaks. So with what you just described with FUBU, did you view Shark Tank as a reinvention or simply building on the FUBU foundation?
No, Shark Tank has nothing to do with FUBU. Did it put out my intellectual property? Did it allow me to share with the world a lot of things that were big misconceptions that FUBU was only for a certain color? No. Because I created FUBU because we felt that people of different colors didn't want us wearing it. So I always tell people, never become the thing that you're fighting against. Mm-hmm. FUBU was something that was spawned from a music that came out of the Bronx that's primarily African-American based, but I think that hip hop shows the poetry of the streets that anybody and everybody can appreciate. And some of the first places I sold FUBU was Seattle, Washington, and Japan. And some of the first rappers I would dress would be Third Bass and Beastie Boys. Those people are not of color, but it didn't matter. But what happened was I think the Shark Tank allowed me to show people that FUBU was all inclusive, as well as to show that people shouldn't pigeonhole you. Prior to Shark Tank, You know, people thought that if I came into a business meeting, I would come in with my pants hanging down to my knees, gold teeth, and start breakdancing. When, no, I understand the fundamentals of business. Just because I look or don't look like certain people, it doesn't mean that I don't understand the fundamentals of business. And I wanted to make sure that my representation on Shark Tank showed every person who think they were marginalized, who didn't come from money, that as long as you apply yourself, you can become whoever you are. It doesn't matter about your color, your race, your gender, your creed, your sexual preference. As long as you bust your butt, you can become whoever you are.
So you seem to be someone who is very much into taking your life experiences and building on them and learning throughout life. Can you tell me about any life lessons you've learned from swimming with the sharks?
Well, that, you know, no matter what business or idea that you can come up with, it's nothing new. It's just going to be a new form of delivery. It may make it lighter, faster, stronger, but you are going to have to find a customer and find a community that values you, and you are going to have to value them twice as much. You have to be somebody who leads as a servant, you know, and want to know how can you solve other people's problems. Also, that money doesn't help you. Money only highlights your weaknesses. Money is needed at certain times, but if you think that you need $1 million and you have a crappy advertising campaign, well, $1 million more of a crappy advertising campaign is not going to do any better. Or if your product is inferior and you buy more inventory, well, now you have more inferior inventory. So you have to figure everything out on a small scale. You have to then be able to go out and grow your business. And you have to have a strong rejection muscle. You just have to understand that you're going to knock on a lot of doors and kiss a lot of frogs, and everybody's not going to see your vision, because if everybody saw your vision, you get the lowest common denominator. And you have to, this is the most important thing, you have to educate yourself and constantly educate yourself. You're either going to learn through two ways in life, through your mentors or through your mistakes. And mentors can come as what I call one of the most underappreciated commodities in this country, a teacher. Mentors can come as a teacher, mentors can come as a book, mentors can come as a family member, but you have to keep educating yourself. And I educate myself every single day on how to be a better person, businessman, husband, servant of God.
Wow. So you've made millions, but money doesn't seem to be your driving force as much as is making a difference. And I've seen that much of your outreach is rooted in mentoring, as you were discussing, the next wave of entrepreneurs with straight talk and never say die encouragement. What drives you to need to pay it forward?
Well, you know, I'm fortunate enough to say that now the money was not my driving force, and it's because obviously I have the resources around me. But as I reflect that the biggest mistakes I've made in my life, it was always when money was my driving force, meaning bad investments because I think I'm well known and I can just throw money at it. Or even before I started FUBU, when I was doing things only for money that I didn't necessarily love, like I used to try to buy crash cars and put them together, but I don't like working with my hands, you know, and I just realized those businesses failed. So then later on after that, I found that the things I started off as a hobby, which is FUBU, which was writing books, which was taking a chance on some show called Shark Tank that I never thought would work, but I wanted to diversify my portfolio, which is public speaking. All those things I found were hobbies, but I started it because I wanted to do it, and it became the most fulfilling thing in my life. And how does that relate to the question is that every year I write down my goals on where I want to see myself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And I start slowly investigating or taking chances in that area. And that starts to compound. And I turn around and say, wait a minute, I'm dyslexic. And I've authored 5 books, and 3 of them are New York Times best-selling books. And they're painful to put together. But the joy of knowing that I've educated somebody else who may be able to get those resources in the future to be able to feed their family or get that education for their family because now they're in control of their destiny is way more rewarding than the pain that I had to do to put the book together. So I just find that that leads me to wherever I want to go in life is setting my goals. And I have to keep setting new goals and setting them higher and setting them in a different way.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about writing the books and how painful it is to do it with dyslexia. So I'm wondering, on a daily basis, how do you manage dyslexia in a way that you're able to succeed, but also able to leverage the creativity and different perspectives dyslexia brings?
By accepting who I am and knowing the core of who I am and being vulnerable and letting people know that I'm dyslexic and telling people and having the right people around me, hey, please don't send me things in long forms like this. Can you bullet point it? Or saying to my wife or whoever's near me, can you check this before I post it or send it out? Because you know, sometimes, you know, people will say, are you kidding me? You really can't spell that word, or why do you do it? No, I'm not kidding you. It's called dyslexia. Sorry, that's what it is. Now, help me with the word, please, and I'll help you with this that you can't do. But you know, too many of us are in a world where we have to walk in and we're trying to put up this shield, and nobody's perfect. You know, and I think that when you do that, when you walk in the room and you are a little bit vulnerable, people want to fight for you. They're like, you know what? I can help you with that. And they now feel important too. And you make them feel, thank you so much. What can I do for you? I mean, you know, I don't want to oversimplify things. I think if we all have found ways to get together like that, we find that we have more in common than we have apart. Every one of us wants to help people. Every one of us wants to earn an honest day living. And every one of us wants to love and raise our family. And if you do that, no matter what your ailment is, okay, if those people who make fun of you or who don't respect you, well, they're not worth your time anyway. The ones who will value you, you will value them, and you will build something great together, a relationship, a friendship. I don't care what it is. You maybe change the planet. So I'd rather know that the person doesn't want to help me by being a little vulnerable.
In your book, The Power of Broke, you discuss what you call the broke mindset. Do you see channeling the broke mindset as a perfect strategy for individuals who learn and think differently to employ as a compass in their lives in overcoming the challenges they face with their learning disabilities?
Absolutely, and I want to make sure the broke mindset is not a poverty mindset, that a poverty mindset is we'll never get anywhere. The broke mindset is to say, if I didn't have any money, how am I going to figure this thing out? And that means, you know, OPM, and OPM should not be other people's money. If you don't have anything, what are your resources? Other people's marketing, mind power, manufacturing, mentors. And like I did off of Timbaland, I made a lot of money off of other people's mistakes by not addressing an emerging market that loved and valued their product. So that's all I had to go off of when I was, you know, starting up. I didn't have money, and I had to figure it out. So if I needed to advertise in my neighborhood, well, I went to all the stores that pulled down those nasty storm and security gates and said, you have nasty graffiti on those gates. I will make it a beautiful color, white, and all I want to do is put on FUBU on the gate in a beautiful piece of art, no vulgarity, and I will make sure kids do not spray paint on this gate. And you know what? Before I knew it, I had 50, then 300 gates around New York City, and those were the price of billboards. And I was making, I had basically $3 million worth of free advertising around New York City that cost me a bunch of spray cans and a bunch of my friends helping at night. And what does that do? That was basically me using my resources. And every single young man and woman watching me right now, they have resources. They have 100 people follow them, 10,000 people follow them. They are smart, they're funny, they're fashionable, they are great cooks, they're great athletes, and they have people that respect and value them. Get that small core of people to get together and help you push your agenda, as long as I believe that it should be doing something good for the community.
So I wanted to close with this. You are one of the world's foremost branding experts, so I wonder how you think people see dyslexia as a brand, so to speak, today.
You know, it's challenging how people see it, because the reality, as you and I both know, talking about the high number of entrepreneurs, talking about, I just talked to you about the sharks and talked to you about how we think outside the box. It is creativity. You know, it is, I mean, I think dyslexia is literally thinking outside the box. It forces us to think outside the box, because the traditional way that people absorb information, we don't understand it, and we have to think outside the box to find a different way to absorb it. And I just would think it would be called thinking outside the box. I just want the kids who watch us and the parents who are watching us right now to understand, I believe dyslexia is a gift, and I believe it is extremely empowering. I think that if you harness it the right way, you will be absolutely unstoppable. If Einstein was dyslexic, then anybody can be dyslexic.
Daymond John, thanks for joining us today and for making a difference in showing dyslexics that they can wear their learning difference with pride.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That brings us to the end of this edition of A World of Difference. I'm Daryl Owens. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. You can watch episodes of A World of Difference on the Beacon College Facebook and YouTube channels and on the show's website, awodtv.org. The website also provides tip sheets and other resources for your parenting journey. And you can listen to the show on the go on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and other popular podcasting platforms. Thank you for watching and supporting A World of Difference.